have been accused of not being a witch. Written by Short Story 1. I have been accused of not being a witch, and how dare they accuse me of such a thing? I am a witch, and tell people every day that I am a witch, but they all keep accusing of not being a witch. It makes me mad, and I tell them how I turn people into nipples, and also how they should be worried if their nipples are even their own. I also told them how I bewitched people into saying things and make them dance to no music. And yet these bastards accuse me of not being a witch. I take part in the rituals and I sing songs of evil, but they still accuse me of not being a witch. I then decided to prove these idiots wrong and that I am a witch, when they burned another witch, and I was so jealous as that other witch got the recognition that she was a witch. These people still think I am not a witch, and that's why they will not burn me. So with the head of a man I had chopped off in some other person's garden, I started floating in the air with this chopped off head. People were accusing me of not being a witch, and they didn't even burn me at the stake. But some other witch who was a fake got burned at the stake. I keep telling them how I can talk to cats, and I even managed to turn a cat into a shape of a human being in front of a crowd, and they shouted and mocked me of not being a witch. I fought back and shouted, "I am a witch," and I turned some people in the crowd into frogs, goats, and other animals. Even as animals, they still accused me of not being a witch, even though I've been practicing it for years. I have terrorized people with my magic, and I have ruined villages, and yet no one is willing to give me the recognition that I deserve and burn me as a witch. They keep singing songs of my name, involved of how I am not a witch. They accuse me of not being a witch, which is the most horrible of accusations. Then one morning, I woke up to find the whole area in front of my house, and they are now recognizing me as a witch. They are carrying me to burn me at the stake, and it is the proudest moment of my life. Finally, everyone knows and sees me as a witch. I forgave those who had accused me of not being a witch before by turning them back into normal people, when I had turned them into nipples and animals. As I started to burn, I was delighted to finally be recognized as a witch, and I shouted out to the crowd, "None of you have to worry about your nipples not being yours anymore." The Mall Witch. Written by Queenofscots. Every year, in the last week of October, the Mall Witch arrived at the Carlisle Mall. Lots of towns had a Mall Santa, but ours was the only one I knew that had a Mall Witch. Nobody ever seemed to recall hiring her, but she showed up every year, and folks seemed to go into a vague, forgetful trance while she was there. It was a rite of passage among us kids to go see the Mall Witch. She crouched in the center of the mall, under twinkling orange and purple lights. Her giant cauldron lurked next to her, sinister vapors wafting, and in it lolled a child-sized mannequin, its face painted in a mask of terror. We kids would approach one at a time, trembling, to tell her what we wanted for Halloween. The October I was 7 was a rough one. My cousin Brett had come to visit for a few days while his parents were out of the country. 12 years old and a bully, he disdained trick-or-treating, let alone the Mall Witch. His favorite pastime during his visit was leaving skull-shaped prints on my arm and forehead from his real silver death's head ring. "That's baby stuff," he sneered, as I waited in line at the mall. "I bet you like to sit on Santa's lap too, don't you?" And with a punch to my arm, he strode off, red and black lumberjack shirt flapping. I didn't care. It was nearly my turn for the witch. And then it was my turn, and I crept to her, ready to ask for candy, or some trite, trifling thing. "So," she rasped, and her voice was dead leaves blowing across a mausoleum floor. "So, what would you like this year?" Her eyes followed my cousin away down the mall, and they gleamed greedily. "Anything special?" I gulped and whispered, "Just candy, and peace and quiet." She nodded, and I scurried away in exhilarated terror. A month later, my cousin went missing. He had gone home by then, and my aunt called, frantic, to tell my mother. There was a huge search party, but Brett was never found. The year went by. Halloween crept up again, and I went, along with the other kids, to see the mall witch. I felt braver this year as I waited in line. After all, I was 8 now. Then I saw the mannequin in her cauldron. The mannequin dressed in a ragged red and black lumberjack shirt, with a silver death's head ring on its finger. The mall witch saw me and grinned nastily, her face splitting like a decaying toadstool. "Peaceful?" she rasped in her dead leaves voice. "And then, you can pay me later." I fled. That was all years ago. I'm an adult now, married. We had our first baby in June. I hadn't thought about the mall witch for years, not till now, my son's first Halloween. I forgot the witch had said, "You can pay me later." I have a terrible feeling it's time to pay.